Okay, we are good to go. Good morning, everyone. I am Teela Clayton, as it says on my name badge. And it is day 2 of commsHERO. Are we excited? I can't hear you. Okay, so I hope you have your coffee pots fully stocked. Yorkshire tea lasts myself, but it is going to be a good one. Let me know in the chat, incidentally, what your poison is. I feel like I'm a cheesy DJ now. Okay, so I'm joined this morning by the founder of 10 Yetis, and we're very excited about this. And if you're not following him on Twitter already, where have you been? What are you playing at? Because Andy injects a dose of lols, I would say, to my timeline every morning. And I must warn you, some of it is not safe for work. But yes, make sure you're following Andy on Twitter. Now, Andy, I believe you are talking about crisis comms this morning. And I noticed the eye. Is that the price you have to pay for dealing with crises?
That's it. So basically, I've upset someone, and they've given me a right-hander to sort it out. But no, unfortunately, I was playing an extreme sport, golf, and I managed to fracture my own eye socket with my own ball. New levels of low.
Okay.
There's nothing. There's nowhere else you can go with that.
I don't know how to respond to that, Andy. I just, this is why I don't do sports, I guess, the danger from it. But yes, you are looking very suave, Andy. We're very excited about this. We're channeling James Bond. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Don't forget, guys, if you've got any questions for Andy, do drop them into the chat. Let us know your thoughts about what he's sharing. And let's have some emojis as Andy gets ready to deliver his presentation.
Well, thank you very much, Teela. I'll just bring up my slides, which is always incredibly slick for a few minutes. So just bear with me. There we go. So yeah, apologies for the look. I thought, yeah, I've got a fractured eye socket. I look like a Bond villain. I thought I'd look like Christopher Waltz in my head, but unfortunately, I look like that odd job, unfortunately. But anyway, let's crack on. I think we have a Q&A session afterwards. So just bear with me through the tech, and off we go. We're going to talk about crisis communications in the digital age. So obviously, first of all, I want to thank the commsHERO team for inviting me to come and speak. Asif in particular has been really supportive from the very start. Anik this morning, whose sultry tones just make me want to be a better person. So thank you very much for that. And obviously, thank you to Teela for the very kind introduction. So the kind of Ron Burgundy bit, why am I in front of you? So I've got 25 years in comms, a mix of in-house and agency. So I actually did the opposite to a lot of people. I worked in-house and for a number of companies that I'll go through. And then I thought, do you know what? I'm going to start an agency because it looks a lot easier. Turns out that's a big fat lie. But anyway, so I kind of took an unusual route. For my sins, I've advised both the main political parties. I can only apologise for doing that. I need to go and have a shower. And then really bizarrely, I've advised a Chinese government delegation on crisis comms. I won't go into the detail of that because I can't, and also they scare me quite a lot. But yeah, that was quite good fun. I have many leather-bound books, and one of the things I wanted to really get across from the start is that this is just my opinion. It's kind of like social media where you get all those people out there telling you can do this, you can't do that. This is how you should do it. This is just my opinion based on my own experience. So I'll try and get you through to the experience bit. Press the right button. So as Nikki Graham said, God rest her soul, who is she? So I am lucky or unlucky enough to have worked for some absolutely huge brands in-house. And hopefully this gives you the reassurance that I do vaguely know what I'm going on about. So I worked for AXA in quite a senior comms role at the point where they were the 5th largest company in the world. So kind of doing crisis comms around defending non-insurance payouts. one of the reasons that I decided to go and set up an agency, because it was a bit soul destroying. I worked for Unilever, the FMCG company, and it's best I don't talk about some of the crisis we had to deal with there. I worked for First Group, or as I love to call them, based on troll feedback, Worst Group. So they were at the time, I don't know if they still are, the largest passenger surface company in the world. So they obviously have got the bus and rail company, Greyhound bus and Yellow school bus in America. Probably the worst company I've ever worked for in terms of organisation, but ironically, some of the best management team I've ever worked for. Alistair Campbell was something to do with our PR team at the time, and that was good fun. I worked for a government utility where we killed everything from animals like swans and cows, people's pets by accident, and then very unfortunately, some of our colleagues. So that was a really, really intense crisis comms environment. And then agency side, we've done some work with the Church of England, and as you all know, or as we all know, they don't do anything wrong, so that was quite easy. We've worked for a number of NHS regional trusts, helping out with things there. We've worked with Optical Express on crisis comms, which they're worth a Google if you're bored, some of the stuff that they've done. And then more recently, we worked on the back Heathrow airport expansion campaign, which which I talk about a little bit later on, and is quite good fun. I live in the southwest, hence the strange accent, but I am from Liverpool. So if I could see all of your cameras right now, I would be casing your house. Let's try and move on. So I guess I'm a bit old school, aren't I? I'm mid-40s. I kind of made the start of my career in traditional PR terms, as they call it, so pre-digital, really, in terms of social media. And I think even in the digital era, the core principles of crisis comms have not changed. You can't polish a turd, but we can roll it in glitter, as they say. But what I kind of mean by that is that if a company is fundamentally fucked, no amount of PR can kind of help it. Unless you're building it on you're trying to build your comms on a solid base, PR can't really take you to the next level. And then if we move on to, a bit of philosophy, because as you can all tell, I'm a wise old owl. How I interpret that, there is always going to be shitty moments in our comms careers. But the glitter for me, see what I've done, I'm trying to tie it all together, is how we prepare and react. This is what really matters. So no matter what's led us to the part of it all going wrong, we should be prepared for it. And I hope this is the quote that you all screen grab and share on social media to make me look wiser. He quickly moves on. Hang on. So let's think, before we get onto the digital side of it, let's think, are we actually ready? Before the shit hits the fan, there's a load of stuff that we need to get in place. And this is the bit where you kind of have to make sure you're prepared and you plan properly. These are just the typical things that I would run through with every client who gets themselves in a bit of trouble. So the first one, and this is the thing that most people don't do, and it always surprises me. Do you have a working Q&A document of every awkward question you could potentially be asked? Now, a lot of companies don't do that. And even if you're a small business, even if you're the IBM or the whoever out there, it's really important you get this Q&A together now. Start working on it now, and ask your C-suite, what are the questions you don't want to be asked? Get ready for that. Really basic one. I know there's loads of NHS government comms people in here, and you'll have already done this, but is your C-suite actually media trained? And I don't mean on all the fluffy stuff. Do they know about bridging points? Is there a good chance they tell Kay Burley to fuck off if they were under pressure? These are the things you've got to really test them on. And I can probably say hand on heart, and I don't care if there's IT people here, IT directors are not the people that you want to get media trained, in my experience. It's obviously your CEO, your chief financial officer, and if you're looking for a kind of playboy or playgirl, look for your chief marketing officer as well. They're the core three that I think you need to you need to get media trained. Another thing that people in the comms team typically ignore is the importance of the legal team, not least because you might get sacked at the end of the crisis comms period, but also because you need to have a friendly ear in your legal team. Because being completely honest, quite often companies could get people. I'm a huge playgirl. Good morning. So yeah, people could quite easily get out of crisis comms if they just apologized. But we're so scared of apologizing as in our comms profession because of the legal ramifications. So as some examples of that, people like Thomas Cook, I was one of the people, I was one of the trolls, oh my God, that put the boot in and said that, they should have apologized for the various things that happened around the death of the few kids. I think it was a carbon monoxide poisoning. But they clearly were under incredible pressure not to from the legal team because of the legal ramifications of apologizing and admitting liability. So that's where you need to have a really good relationship with your compliance and legal team so that they understand where you're coming from and you can quickly go and get no bullshit advice from them. Do you have your stakeholders and ambassadors warmed up? This is really, really important. And again, a lot of companies don't do this. I learned this when I started out in the power company. We had some horrible situations. As I say, the worst is obviously when you kill people. Not me personally, obviously, although I do look like a Bond villain. So, but anyway, when you kill people, as I understand it, that's generally frowned upon. But moving slightly away from the really extreme elements, it's important that you build a bank of people that will come out and support you when the shit hits the fan. So they're not kind of coming out as company employees, and we talk about that later on, but they're coming out as stakeholders. So town councillors, people of note in your community. Are you talking to them? Are you having regular conversations with them? Do you have their contact details on hand on a GDPR compliant database so that you can get in touch with them and ask them to support you? And keep in touch with the RC journalists even before you start. We all know who the dickheads are. Let's get out there and let's try and meet them. Let's go for coffee. No one lunches or goes for a beer anymore. Let's get out there and try and engage with them and try and get them on side before anything actually happens. I don't mean a few days before. I mean like constantly drip feeding in when you can to talk to them. But when we talk about all these kind of things, there's loads of examples. You'd expect me to go through a few. I'll just talk briefly about a couple of the bad ones. The ones that I always talk about in lectures and things like that are Tony Howard at BP. If you want an entire book on how to fuck up as a CEO during an oil spill, very niche crisis comms, then go and have a look at some of the stuff that he did. One of my absolute favorites is Richard Brown from Eurostar a good few years ago, where Eurostar had all those people trapped in the tunnel, and he decided to do a sort of Q&A interview in what looked like a shoe cupboard. It kind of looked a bit like the film Taken with Liam Neeson, but he was the guy being kidnapped. So that's a really good example of how not to do it. Some examples of how to do it. I think Nick Varley from Merlin, I think it's Merlin Entertainment, when Alton Towers had that horrific stuff going on a few years ago, he went on Kay Burley and he absolutely nailed it. No matter what the muggles say outside of our industry, from us as PR experts, well, you guys, I'll just turn up for the free coffee, but as PR experts, we look at that as a really good example of how he did. And in fact, he turned it around so much that there was over 1,000 complaints about the way that Kay, like we're good friends. She actually blocked me on Twitter for some reason. Can't think why. But anyway, we can see that Kay Burley had 1,000 complaints against her. So also some really good examples, and I'm going to big up some people here in our industry who I follow and who inspire me, especially around crisis comms or good planning. So Stuart Bruce, he helped HSBC just before their cash machine breakdown failure, and that's absolutely carnage for a bank. I've worked in financial services. For things like that to happen quite late in the afternoon into the early evening when people have gone home, important people have gone home, is really hard. But their crisis comms planning matrix, I think, was supported by Stuart Bruce. So go and give him a follow. And then the other guy whose book that I read, Jonathan Hemus, he wrote, I think it's called Crisis Proof. He's worked everywhere. So he's another guy to go and give a follow to. And then finally, the people I think who absolutely boss crisis comms is McDonald's. They get a lot of crap for their generally giving people diabetes. That's a joke. Please don't sue me. I'm a type 1 diabetic. But they come out of scandals really well. So the horse meat scandal, they didn't get touched by that because they'd obviously put a lot of groundwork into the quality of their products. Obviously, they saw an issue coming with the sort of muck jobs meme, where people were taking the piss out of folk who'd worked in McDonald's as a kid. So they put together a list and a campaign of how many of the FTSE 250 CEOs had actually had a muck job. So things like that is, a really good example to go and look at. Just quickly try and move on. So yeah, preparation continues. Does everyone in your team actually know their role in a crisis? That always surprises me, because when the shit hits the fan, there's 1,000 calls going on. People are panicking. People are dabbling in things that they shouldn't be and making the situation worse. Really important. You've got everybody's role absolutely nailed in the team. Do you have the phone alert cascade process? A bit 80s, but you've got to do it. Do you have social listening tools in place? So, in my time, I've used things like Falcon, BuzzSumo, Ahrefs is really good as well. We'll talk about that later. And then the obvious ones like Kantara, Meltwater. But these are really important tools that can help you when you're up against it. Do you have a rebuttal team? A lot of companies don't have this in their plan, or organizations don't have this in their plan. So it's all great when you're firefighting against whichever regional reach magazine or newspaper is hitting you on their live videos. But how do you address all of the bullshit that they write about, and all of the kind of, well, let's be honest, fake news that sometimes leaks out? Well, this is one of the things that I learned when I was at First Group again. In a talk with Alistair Campbell. It's something we implemented straight away. It was a rebuttal team. So it's just 2 people. Typically, it'll be someone in your legal and compliance team and a comms person. And you're keeping an eye out for the stuff that's being fed into the news that's not right, and you're addressing it straight away. And then this I kind of feel bad putting this last, but typically it's the thing that gets forgotten. Do you have people's well-being and oversight and support in mind? Do you have someone from HR just sort of checking in with your team? Because crisis comms is absolutely draining. So you kind of need to get that in on day one. And the other thing, I didn't write this down because I didn't particularly want to put this out there publicly, but do you have another big story that you could throw to try and bury the bad news? So I think some famous examples of that I won't go into would be the Beckhams, where whenever a particular scandal comes along, they've got a bigger story that they can feed the media to bury the bad one. Now, obviously, if you're working for Scunthorpe County Council, I don't know why I said Scunthorpe, but if you're working for some Drury, maybe back end, middle of nowhere county council, it's hard to come up with a bigger story, but it's something to kind of keep in mind. So the other thing that I was really keen to get across sort of halfway through this is that when a crisis happens, we panic. I panic. I've been through some huge public relations crisis, and it is immediately a bit of heart in mouth moment. But the thing you need to remember is that this is what we live for. There is no feeling like being in the middle of a crisis, but this is what we train for. This is what the business has hired us for. We are the experts that the business turns to. So try and remember that. It's all about, as with a lot of my career, talking absolute bullshit with confidence. And, no more do you need that than when you're working on a crisis comms brief. So as I said, crisis comms in the traditional era, is virtually templated now, and a lot of people will say that that's rubbish, and it's just my opinion. But really, it's kind of like a Janet and John colouring by numbers in my eyes. So as we would go into a traditional major event crisis comms, we would first of all formally accept you fucked up and you're in a crisis. So that's the number one thing. Hit the cascade. Make sure your C-suite know. Tell them not to appear picking up the milk on the doorstep. People still do that in their dressing gown. That's something that happened to one of my CEOs once. He got long lensed in his garden whilst picking up his milk on the front door. That was great. I was in the gym and he appeared on ITV News. Really good. Suspend your proactive marketing across all channels, and don't forget that includes your PPC. So go into your IT team or whoever looks after your PPC and get them to suspend all of your proactive ads, tweets, and marketing structure. That's one of the things that if you look at Eurostar, at the point where they got probably 20 journalists trapped under a tunnel, 400 muggles trapped in a tunnel, they were also pumping out adverts saying, don't forget, come and get your cheap tickets for £69. So that was one of the things that the media absolutely jumped on. Bit of a light-hearted one. Don't forget to change the office light bulbs from green to red. I think that's more of a red Blackadder joke, but we'll move on from that. Apologise if you can, and if you need to. If you fucked up, just hold your hands up and say you fucked up. I fucked up so much; it's embarrassing. Sometimes just put your hands up and say, "Yeah, we've made a mistake." But this is where you need your good legal team friend. Do it where it's not going to get you bollocked, essentially, by your C-suite. Front up using your most senior people. Again, I know this is a bit Janet and John for those that have been doing it for years, but some people forget this. They try and put up the finance officer or the marketing director to front up at the interviews because they're not too sure about the CEO. It's really important you just get your CEO out there and get them touring around in the media, putting it across. That's who the media want to talk to. They want to talk to your most senior people. They certainly don't want to fucking talk to PR people. So that's your excuse to get out of that. Turn on your rebuttal group. If you are getting absolutely hammered, this is where the rebuttal group comes in really handy. I'll just quickly look at time. Here we go. Right. Following on, get those stakeholders and ambassadors out there talking to your enemies, bigging you up. And then getting into the nitty gritty, if you're really, really up against it, announce an investigation by an independent third party. How many times have we heard the government say that? And then the independent third party turns out to be someone that they went to uni with. Formally declare the crisis over. Now, that's the really important bit. Don't forget to, turn your proactive marketing back on, no matter what people say. And then my favorite bit, show the consequence of the crisis. And that typically means someone in the C-suite is going to get the Spanish Archer, as I call it, elbow. See what I did there? And they're going to go and spend more time with their family. So essentially, one of the C-suite gets sacked as a consequence. And then, when it's all ended, go and meet your biggest haters. And we'll come on to that, especially around trolls. But again, early on in my career, I learned from some great people like Liam Herbert. He's a really good guy. I think he works in lobbying PR now that you should go and give a follow to on Twitter. And when bad things happened afterwards, we went out and we went to go and meet the journalists that kicked us in. We went to go and meet the stakeholder groups that kicked us in. Someone actually once spat in my face because of a power cut. So that was a beautiful moment in life. But anyway, go out and meet them, but wear a spit kit. But as we move on, the digital era, or as I call it, them fuckers on Twitter, they've ripped apart our beautiful PR playbook. So this is the bit. When I asked a few months ago, look, I'm fortunate enough to have been asked to do a commsHERO talk. Loads of people came back, particularly in local government comms, and said, it's just, how do you deal with trolls? They're just fuckers, aren't they? And there is no nice way to deal with them. There are some things that you shouldn't do, and we'll talk about those. But there are some core things that you should do. And the first thing is something that I hate people at conference talks saying, Oh, get the conversation offline as fast as you can. I don't know why I did a northern accent then. I'm from the north originally, so hopefully that's you'll let me off for that. But yeah, try and get the conversation offline. Everyone says that. It's really hard to do. But in my experience, the best way to do that is to start with a phone conversation. So obviously try and get it to DMs, get their phone number off them straight away or as soon as you can. You give your phone number, make it really obvious that you're bending over backwards, because then it makes it very hard for them later down the line to say, oh, well, they didn't get in touch. They left me for days without speaking to me. This is how little trolls end up being big trolls, because people haven't got the bottle to front up to these keyboard warriors, because that's the core part of it. All of these people that are trolls, and I love saying stuff like this because I hope things like this leak out, because then people give me abuse on Twitter, and I absolutely love it. I get so much grief for daring to have an opinion. I absolutely love it. But typically, these trolls, they're all kind of the same. They've got a bit of a suntan from their monitor. They're absolute keyboard warriors. They're absolutely aggressive on the internet. But you meet them face to face, and they're nothing. And this is the thing that you want to try and do, not in a threatening way, and never on your own. Talk about that in a minute. But try and get the conversation offline as quick as you can. Make it super easy for them to contact you privately, so they can't then accuse you of not being in touch. So some of the tools that I talked about, you can kind of spot trolling groups beginning to grow. And some of the tools out there that can really help with that are the obvious ones that everyone trots out at a conference around crisis comms. So BuzzSumo, Falcon. Not many PR people, traditional PR people like myself, would typically use a tool like Ahrefs, which is a search engine optimization, SEO. They're a group of trolls in their own right, but an SEO tool called Ahrefs. If you put your website in there, it will show you, for example, where people from other websites have linked back to you. And quite often troll groups will do that because they don't really understand the consequences of what they're doing. So you can spot a conversation going on maybe a forum, or so like Mumsnet. Oh my god, don't get me started on that. But Mumsnet, you could spot a conversation on there because they've linked back to a certain page on your website or something like that. Or maybe they've set up a brand activism group, some sort of group of alpha parents, as I call them, that all get together to put the boot in. So Ahrefs is really, really good at that. You can go in and see those conversations. You could even, as an official spokesperson, take part in those conversations, and again, try and nip it in the bud. Interact and try and address the situation where you can spot it. Offer to meet the trolls. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said somebody, a muggle spat in my face once. So when I worked for the power company, we had, say, 3,000 people off supply in a very rural area. Some of them were off for quite a long time, really unacceptable because of extreme weather. So we decided to go and hold a load of community group meetings to go and address these communities that have been badly affected. And as I walked into the hall, someone just flammed right in my face. It was beautiful. But after we went and met these people and fronted up to our mistakes and explained why what had happened, the crisis died down. It sort of took the fire. Sometimes people just want to vent, don't they? If you've got a partner and they're venting at you and you immediately try and solve their problems, they don't really want them to solve the problems. They just want to vent. So yeah, try and get out there and meet them, even in the groups. Really important as well. Don't let trolls stop you from posting positive messages and your marketing materials, especially once the crisis has started to die down. And this is really, really difficult because the C-suite sometimes don't understand this. They really want to hold off. They really want to hold off with their proactive marketing because they're worried about, what the trolls are going to say and what they're going to do. But the reality is you've got to get back out there because in a month's time, the C-suite will be moaning because they haven't got as many downloads for whatever they wanted to get downloaded. They haven't got as many signups. They haven't got as many sales. And you're saying, well, actually, you've shut down 50% of our marketing. So really, really sort of brief the C-suite, especially at the start of the crisis. Look, at some point, we need to be ready to turn everything back on again. And the bottom line is, if you've got those absolute twats that are posting the same thing on everything that you put out, you just need to ignore it and move on. Other people look at that because we're so close to it. We think it's the end of the world. But even other muggles look at that and they think, what is that knobhead doing? You know, posting the same thing on every post. So that's kind of like maybe the digital bit of where we're at. Oh, what's happened? Right. So here, oh, that's a very bright slide. Most common questions asked about being trolled. So when I go in and do in-house training, or we do situation planning, or a company's really fucked up and they get us in last minute because they want some help. These are the questions that I typically get asked. Well, can we delete or hide their comments? Yes. Now, again, this is just my opinion. A million social media people say, "Oh no, that's really bad." They'll be in their lefty cardigan saying it's the end of the world. But no, if it's a sustained attack, and they're saying stuff that makes no sense in relation to the post that you're putting out there. So you're putting out, saying local authority, I don't know, you're putting out, oh, great news, everyone, we're moving bin collections up to weekly instead of fortnightly, and you get some absolute numpty posting, yeah, well, what about that time you shut the election doors at 10 o'clock? That makes no sense in context of what you are posting about. So yes, you're well within your rights to delete that, especially if there's swearing. Great excuse. We don't want our community seeing muggles swear. We're all very mild-mannered PR people. We don't swear. How dare they? So yes, you can delete stuff, especially if it makes no sense. Should we reply to their comments? If it's absolute batshit, if they're just talking absolute dribble, or you think they're posting after midnight when they've had a few sherbets, no, just ignore it, or hide it and move on. If it does make sense, if the context is right and they are clearly just nice people, but they want to vent about something, that comes back to saying, yeah, we'd like to talk to you about this. We're going to DM you or follow us so that we can DM you and get more information. So yeah, if it's crackers, no, just leave them to it in their own fantasy world. But if it's serious, then yeah. The fuckers have set up a website and it ranks for our name. What can we do? Wow, you could tell that I've got a story coming here. This is a little bit more tricky. So I've got an example that I can talk about, and a couple of things that I can't really, but I'll take a punt. Basically, you need to understand. So let's think of an example. So Bellway Homes, nothing to do with them. I've never worked with them. I'd happily take their money, but they have loads of activist groups around the internet because some of their homes have maybe been put up in a bit of a rush and don't meet certain standards. So a group of these Bellway home owners put together a website. I think it was called Bellway Homes is Shit, and it started ranking for the term Bellway Homes. As I understand it, Bellway have kind of privately bought this website now and solved all the problems and got rid of it. But it's really important that you do maybe go and talk to those horrible SEO people. I'm joking, I love SEO people. But go and talk to the SEO people in your team to understand, well, how come this site is ranking? What's happened to make this new website suddenly rank at the top of Google? And what can be done to try and move it down Google? That's a whole different story. I could do a whole talk on how you get rid of bad stuff out of Google. But a really good example that I've got. So as I said, we worked with Back Heathrow, and they were obviously a very controversial project, and their main rival was obviously Gatwick. Now, I don't think this is anything to do with Gatwick, he said, for legal reasons, but we noticed that a negative article, a very small negative article on the BBC website about the Heathrow project ranked really highly for the term Back Heathrow Airport expansion. Now, you kind of expect it, but it actually outranked the Back Heathrow website. So that was a bit troubling. So we looked into it and we saw that, when you think that typically a BBC article gets around 100 backlinks, this one had got 400 links coming into it, and they were all from Heathrow activists. So we could see that something a bit shady had gone on. So yeah, you need to work through that. Are we pushed for time, Teela? Is that why Teela? Sorry, is that why you just jumped on?
No, keep going.
Oh right, I thought I was getting wheeled off the stage. I thought maybe Gatwick had got in touch and said snipering.
Yeah, they're telling me to silence you.
Yeah, I don't blame them, to be honest. So yeah, the C-suite always considers legal action. Should you? No, don't do that. Not unless you absolutely have to. It never looks good to the muggles. It looks like you're bullying people. And you don't really want your legal team to represent you or respond to stuff publicly. As I put in here flippantly, it's not the TV show Suits. Typically, we're a lot cheaper than legal people, which is why companies, come to PR people or the PR department first, because we bill less per hour. And then again, one of the things that comes under all of this legal stuff is jargon. So anyone who's anything to do with grassroots rugby union at the minute will be more than aware of the crisis that the RFU is kind of going through, and will probably be made very public soon. And a lot of it's just because they're using too much jargon in their communications around grassroots rugby. So again, take all your bullshit out and try and keep it simple, stupid, as they say. So this is always the one that cracks me up. We've all got members of our team who are a bit thuggish or are from thuggish families, and they're like, well, I'll just go around their house and have a chat with them. Don't do that, you mental. That's absolutely crackers. It'll end up being a police matter. You'll end up getting scapegoated and probably fired. And there are some serious, examples of that. So I think Liverpool Football Club's head of PR had an incident like that where he decided to confront a troll at his house, and he left to go and spend more time with his family. And how do we get it offline though? So I'm always going on, get it offline as quick as you can. Bottom line is, and the CEO will hate this, offer them a CEO meeting. Take your CEO round to their horrid property, get him covered in cat and dog hair. He will love that. You will love that. Have some of their biscuits and chat through the problems. It's horrible, but you know what? It will get you through the problem a lot quicker. So we're drawing to the end. I can see a lot of people are nodding off. So when all is calmed down, what are you going to do? Well, the first thing that I always say is the team all right? It's fucking traumatic getting shouted at 24 hours a day for 3 months. So make sure the team are okay. And I'm not just talking taking them out for some forced fun bowling and social action. Actually make sure they're okay. Get them into HR or whoever or whatever counselling services you've got, and just double check everyone's okay. What can you learn as a team, as an organization? What did you get wrong? Were you too slow to respond? Did you not try and get ahead of the story? What could you have put out there that had helped? Go meet the trolls in their natural habitat. So once things have calmed down and you find a community group of angry alpha parents that that have kicked off, find out where they meet. It's usually at coffee shops, Costa, Nero, Starbucks, all chatting about their diets, eating their croissant and cake at 9:30 in the morning. Get out and meet them. Go and chat to them. See if you can help them, and ask them what happened. Obviously, apart from fanning the flames, what did the local media do? Did they help you? Did all of those coffees and maybe the one beery lunch a quarter help? Did they get on your side, or did they not give a fuck and just try and get clicks by writing stupid headlines? How dare he? But I'm going to guess it's going to be the latter. But yeah, go meet these journalists that have put the boot in. Could you have done something better? What do they think you should have done? And the other thing is, especially if you work in, I guess, local comms, I see this happen quite a lot. Don't fucking hire the ones that give you the biggest boot. Take them in-house in PR and then make them redundant in a year. Sorry, what? And then, what can you learn from this in the future? This is the obvious thing. Every crisis comms person says this, how can you make it better? Can you do more effective role play? Sounds a bit kinky. I'll dress as Wonder Woman. But yeah, when you're doing your next crisis comms planning, can you actually use real life examples? Revisit your tech stack. What tools could have helped you? you know, the Ahrefs, the BuzzSumo. Have you got it? Why haven't you got it? Could you have gone to someone to, you know, let you have access to their account for a few days? And did the C-suite get it? You know, can you track back what did they want to do and what you actually did and what you advised? Can you show them? You know, can you really demonstrate? Well, look, if you'd listened to us at the start, we'd have been able to help. If we were part of your decision-making process and organizational planning, you know, we could have helped you avoid this crisis. So again, it gives us a great opportunity. It gives us a great opportunity to play a bigger role at board level. Let's be honest, we should be at board level. That's what I tell people. But quite often they think we're just fucking puff people that, you know, that cover up their shit. No, we want to be on the board. We want to be at board level, helping them understand. Well, I've got an idea, Tony Hayward. Stop fucking spilling oil, and then we won't get in so much trouble. Crazy PR idea. So don't worry. You can see 2 slides left. Golden rules. I feel like if you all turn to page 72 of your hymn books, we'll go through the golden rules. So number 1, never astroturf. So that's basically setting up a fake account on Gmail or Facebook. We've all done it. I'm joking. I've never done it. And posting positive companies about the, posting positive messages about the companies we work for. Don't do that. It always comes back to bite you on the arse. There's a whole plethora of Reddit weirdos that live for calling people out. What do they call them on Netflix? Internet sleuths. I call them arseholes. Right, next one, never lie. We all know this. PR people don't lie. Move on. Apologize where you can. Yes, we've gone through that. Get the online conversation offline as quick as you can. Easy for me to say, hard to do, but let's try it. Learn from your experiences. It comes back to the role playing. And the number one thing, don't be a dick. So don't be arsey to journalists. Don't be arsey to trolls before, during, or after. Just do what you've got to do and get on with it. It's very easy to say, very hard, especially, you know, you've got a knee-jerk reaction when someone's just spat in your face, but just need to smile and nod and move on. And the last thing, you lot are bloody awesome. And you need to remember that. You're working for some of the best organizations ever. There's no better department to work in than the PR or comms function. And you're bloody awesome for doing that. So you remember that next time the shit hits the fan. So I'm now going to try and end this. Hand back to Teela, who will say, you're fired. Never come back to commsHERO again.
Thank you very much, Andy. Now, you did a pretty comprehensive Q&A session for yourself there.
Thank you. Getting ahead of the story.
I know. It's almost like you don't want me to ask you any questions, which is suspicious.
No, I will answer anything that won't get me sued.
But yeah, that was brilliant. And I think my boys would have absolutely loved the decks there and your images. So I think we are I'm getting messages from Lee saying actually I should have wrapped up there. That's on me.
Oh right. Okay, well done me.
So can I ask are you going to be about afterwards, Andy, to jump on tables? And we do have a couple of questions actually that I don't think we're going to have time for. So do you mind mixing with the hoi polloi or the muggles? And
it would be, none of us are muggles in this group. We're all professionals. But yeah, and if you get stuck, just tweet me or DM me at Tenyetis on Twitter. But yeah, I'll go and join a table now, whatever that means, and chat to you all in a bit.
Yeah, thank you again, Andy. Thank you for joining, and absolutely invited back, especially if you are bringing the humour with you as well. So yeah, a few questions in the chat. I think probably, you know, lots of love on the chat box as well for you there. So next up after this session, so we've got a bit of time for networking, so you'll be able to ask Andy any questions. And then the next session is at 10:15, and we have the lovely Hayat Rachi, who I'm currently stalking on Twitter, trying to slide into DMs for a copy there. And she'll be talking, it's a numbers game, which sounds very interesting. So don't forget, as you jump on those tables, if you manage to get pinned down James Bond, Andy Barr, you can take advantage of the competition that we run in. So you just need to take a picture of yourself networking and post it on socials with the hashtag commsHERO. And we have those lovely prizes available, the Sharpies, we've got the diary and the Pets at Home voucher for pets, obviously, and the Amazon £30 gift voucher. So thank you again, Andy. Can we have a round of virtual applause, please? Excellent.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you on a table.